Welcome to the TC Dojo from Single Sourcing Solutions. The TC Dojo is a TechCom community that is driven by you. Tell us what you want to learn. You choose the topics and we find the experts. In the TC Dojo open session today, I'll be the one talking about the art of personal branding. Technical communicators face this problem in multiple ways. Internal or external, if we want someone to understand our value, to hire us or our company, we need to be able to tell our story. Who we are, what our plan is, and what defines us. There are key points to address at each point in the story in order to gain customers. Whether you're the boss or not, you're constantly telling your story. Technical communicators move in and out of employment. Sometimes we're employees, sometimes we're contract workers, with a surprising frequency. We're unique in this regard. We do this far more often than other disciplines. This session is for you if you're thinking about working for equity, starting a business, or think that at some point you might find yourself out on your own. Please type in your questions as we go. Use the chat or question window, whichever you prefer. I like it best when I can talk with people, not just at them. So please type in your questions, your stories, or whatever comes to mind. I promise it'll be a better session for all of us. Okay, let's get started. I'm Liz Fraley. Most people like the column on the right. I like the column on the left. The 4 adjectives. There's a leadership personal inventory technique where you come up with 3 words. You make lists of words after word after word and roll them all up into one. I rolled up into 4. These are the 4 words that describe me. Scientist. I'm a computer scientist. I have a BS. I also have an MA and BA in English. Those are degrees not in time order but relevance. I'm a researcher, an experimenter. I read 200 plus books a year. I read thousands of articles, blogs, news, mailing lists every year. I lurk everywhere. But I'm a researcher. I may not know the answer, but I always know where to get it, or at least the lead to it. I know who to ask to locate it, like the librarian behind the research desk at the library. And I do experiments. I'm an investor. That same knack for research, I invest in learning and in the learning of my customers and communities. I don't really like this word investor. It's got that weird Wall Street vibe. But for me, it's about investing in our community and investing in learning. Our staff donates 20% of their time to community projects. I sit on the boards and volunteer for 3 nonprofits, one of which I started. That's TC Cant, the first unconference for technical communications community. I'm always searching for new ways to increase the knowledge of the professionals in the communities I serve. I launched a web series, the TC Dojo. It's a free and open to the public, and you're here attending it today. All the recordings are posted to YouTube. We know that you want to learn, and so do we. We know that we learn best when we invest in our people, our customers, and our communities. Economist, I wanted frugal, but everyone tells me frugal is just doesn't give off the right vibe. They said, use economist. You take an economical approach to your customers' money. And they're right, we do. We're very conservative in spending money that customers have entrusted to us. And with your time. Sure, we could do that whole project to throw it over the fence, telling you to come back when you want to change, and don't forget to bring your pocketbook. But it's just not who we are. We train our customers incessantly, another odd word I know, to take over what we've done. We tell them why we did it, the reasoning behind it, so they grow in their capability. It's about empowerment. That nonprofit I mentioned, it's the only unconference for technical communicators and content creators. It's a free day that happens every January here in the Bay Area. All of these are ways to enable you. Enabler, I'm actually on a mailing list that's called Enabler with a bunch of people who all have different specialties. This is our place where we come together to share knowledge and where we ask questions and enable each other. This month I wrote, recently I wrote a book and gave away an ebook about Oxygen XML Editor that I've used for a long, long time. I am a published author. I've published 3 books, including the ebook, in the last year or 2. The Oxygen book you see here, I gave away the knowledge because it was too huge to hoard. It's part of enabling the professionals around me, and I'll come back to this theme later. More than a year ago now, actually, Andrew Davis gave a presentation to the East Bay STC. Now, you guys don't know Andrew. Everyone in TechCom in Silicon Valley does. Andrew's a recruiter. Employers go to him for the tough finds. The experts in data or FrameMaker or API writing or what have you. His foo is strong because employers know they can count on him to find a quality candidate that will serve them well. About a year ago, I booked him into this session doing this presentation for the East Bay. The presentation was a accumulation of advice he's given to candidates over 20 years as a recruiter for TechCom talent. He also did it for the TC Dojo in December of last year. But when he saw me at the meeting, he said, what are you doing here? You don't interview anymore. You've been running single sourcing for what, 10, 15 years? For 12, but it wasn't that he didn't expect to see me there. After all, I am the one who booked him into that slot. But by the time Andrew finished his session, I realized I interview constantly. I interview every single day. I tell my story. I sell my brand. Every single day. Sometimes more than once a day. Every prospect, every customer, every existing customer with a new project or product or thing they need to do. Every community service project and experiment, every sale. I'm always selling my brand, always telling my story. I interview all the time, and it's not just for the sake of having referenceable accounts. If you want to gain customers, if you need to know how to tell your story, how to sell your brand, and it has to be authentic, it has to match who you are. So, I need a show of hands, well, virtual hands, type in the chat window. I'm curious about who's here today. Who do we see? Are you independents? Are you growing consultancies, contracting businesses? Are you moving up the ladder, looking for leadership roles? TechCom folks are always the last on the ladder to get this kind of training. They're the last to get visibility in their company for anyone who even to think to offer them that option. Anybody just need a break today? I know it's early Monday morning, but here we go. This is where we're going to start the story. This is where we're going to talk about how you get your story together, how you build your brand, the story of your brand, what you believe, how you present yourself, what you show to the world. How you envision yourself actually creates the reality you face. So it's in every interaction you have. So when people say homework, life balance, be someone different at work, be someone different at home, you're not someone different at work. You're not someone different at home. You are always you. You approach the world the same way. You might be more professional at work, but that same courtesy, the family deserves it too. And when you have a really crappy day, you don't want to go home and take it out on them. By the same token, you don't want to blow up at work. Knowing who you are and how you perceive yourself is essential to being able to tell your story. And then you can design your brand, because you are you, and your perception of yourself influences everything you do. Story time. I did a lot of experimenting before I started single sourcing solutions in 2004. Most small businesses are dead after 5 years. I had a lot of support behind me. I've worked at giant, global, humongous companies where you can't envision how many people work for them. I've worked for medium-sized companies, small startups seeking funding for venture capitalists, and I started my own. I had to know, where do I fit? What bed do I want to be in? So you start with your inventory. You have to know who you are, where you fit, who you are, what your perception is, who you are, what you value. You have to know what you do well and what you don't. No matter what story you self-select, your success depends completely on how well you know yourself. If you're starting a company, you need to find those people who fill the gaps in your capability. There are a lot of things I'm not good at, and I've partnered with someone who's exceptional at those things I am not good at. And I have a clear understanding of those things I'm not good at, right? I know what her strengths are. I knew how to find a partner because I'd already done that inventory. So first, you need to know who you are, and we're going to talk more about this. Then, what are you going to do? We did a workshop at LavaCon a year or two ago, and one of our attendants said during the session that I'm an editor. I launched my business 20 years ago. I went out and said, I'm an editor. I can edit everything for everyone. And she found it hard to find customers because no one quite understood why they should pick her over someone else. You don't do everything. You can't do everything for everyone. Right? So back to our story. We sell ArborText here at Single Sourcing Solutions. We're a reseller and provide services to make it work and support customers in the long run. Any superficial view of that picture says, wow, you're crazy. Your competitors are Microsoft, Adobe, so many others. Right? And similarly, any superficial view of the product says anybody using data or XML or publishing, they can all use arbor text. In one sense, we can all say, sure, yeah, everybody knows that. But the truth is, no, it's not. And while it may be true from a very superficial or technical level, not everyone who buys ArborText is the right customer for single sourcing solutions. Not all are aligned with the brand that we have, and we have to differentiate ourselves from all of our competitors. Why should anyone pick single sourcing solutions over any of the other ArborText partners? So, this is where you start. And I'm not going to go through these questions, but I will say that you should be able to answer every one of these questions. And for every one of them, you should be able to fill the entire side of a blank piece of paper with your answer. So each question, you should be able to fill out an entire piece of paper answering. They're not simple questions to answer. They seem that way, but they're really not. What do you do? What are you motivated by? And be sure to type in the GoToMeeting panel and share if you want. Tell me about you. What do you value? What are you good at? Right? When you have conversations with other people, when you're talking about a project, what do you see? Where do you chime in? What are you good at? What part of the projects do you like to do? And the flip side, what do you not like to do? Right? It's easier to list off things you don't like. It is harder to list things that you do like. If possible, when you're answering these kinds of questions, try to stay on the positive side, listing things that you are good at or like rather than things that you don't. And if anyone's interested in starting a business or going out on your own, if you don't like accounting, you're going to suffer and delay every week. You have to spend that one day working on the books and doing that kind of stuff. Maybe you find a partner who does that. So for us, we sell software. We have to deal with every little sales tax jurisdiction in the country. California, the land of propositions, every little jurisdiction can have a new sales tax. And I have to know what it is and I have to pay it to that jurisdiction. And it's not a pretty picture. I had no idea I was going to have to do that when I started, but that's part of the question. Do you want to start a business or do you want to be taken care of? Do you want someone else to take care of that stuff? The business end of the business. There's no wrong answer. You're answering who you are and what you want to be, and it's only true and correct and accurate for you. It doesn't have to be right for anyone else. So the first thing you want to do when you're starting out to work on your brand, take this slide, take each question, and a blank piece of paper for each one. Take one question and answer it on one piece of paper. Fill out the page. It should take you a page to figure it out. Next, the first step in understanding who you are, you're doing the self-inventory. Then you can start figuring out the first step, which is attraction. Gaining customers is just like dating. You've got the attraction stage, the courtship stage, and then the evaluation period where you decide whether this is going to be a long-term relationship or not. Right? We're in this exciting attraction stage. Everyone's had this happen, right? You just click with someone you've just met. I had this experience at an SDC conference in Rochester, New York, and I met someone there. It was like we were sisters. Now she's on board of TC Cant, and we do other projects together. Some things are easy. That attraction part really has to be there. It's also easier to reach the attraction stage when you have something in common, some common link, something that starts it. Birds of a feather flock together. This is attraction. Everyone's experienced this. You're trying to do this. Your customers are going to see. They have to have the attraction bit first. Then you can start the courtship. Engagement is the courtship phase. Once you get someone to pay attention to you, you need to see if they're going to listen. Whether you're going to listen to them and whether they're going to listen to you. Just because you hang up your shingle or tell your boss you're interested in a leadership position doesn't mean anyone's going to take you up on it. Just because you hang your shingle doesn't mean anyone has to hire you. It's not enough to put up your website and say, I'm done. You're not done. That's the attraction part. It's not the engagement part. And certainly it's not the evaluation period. It's just the first step. You want to go through that courtship phase and you want to end up with one of these two pictures. Either they're on your side and ready to find out if the relationship should continue or you're done. I had a sales guy who worked for me for a while and I said to him once very early on, I was kind of joking around, but not really. I said, no is the second best answer. He stopped me cold and said no. Sometimes no is the best answer because you can stop your work to court that customer right then and there. No more wasted time on your behalf. No more wasted time on their behalf. So you really do want one of these answers and you don't really care which it is. You just want to know which one it is. So for me, when I started the courtship metaphor, I like it because you have to kind of imagine a courtship phase like a stepping stone path through a garden. You can think of it in dating terms. You don't meet someone and say, let's get married and get pregnant right now. Really, whoa, slow down. It doesn't happen so much like that. You have to go through the courtship phase. You have to get through the evaluation period and see if it's going to work out, or even if you want to go through with it. You don't really know in those first few attraction minutes. And you can't just jump to the end. You can't put up a website and say you're done. That's jumping to the end. You have to take every stepping stone on the path through the garden to get to the end. You can't rush it. You can't skip it. You have to engage with the prospect. And every step of the way, you are communicating your story and communicating your brand. So, okay, we did attraction, we did courtship, and now we get all the way to the end and you're going to have to evaluate, right? And you're not just evaluating, it's not just them evaluating you. You are evaluating them. The answer to who is your customer is never everyone. Back to my example, right? We sell Arbortext. Arbortext is XML publishing, DITA. There are classic cases for XML and DITA. It's the perfect answer. Well, no, it's actually not the perfect answer. Not for everyone, not for every situation. There are places where we have recommended Madcap because they're a better answer for that situation and that customer and their goals, right? There are places where we've recommended FrameMaker. There are times when we've said stay in Word. Stay in Word. That's all you need for your situation. That's what you need. Then they go to work with someone else because they're not our customer. Remember the story of the woman from that workshop? She started out, everyone's my customer. She had jobs she hated. She had jobs she didn't want. She had jobs that were unprofitable. We have fired customers, right? This final stage, you're trying to find out, you know who you are. You know, you've been willing to talk to each other. You're coming to that final stage. And you're asking these kinds of questions. Does my personal drive align with your goals? They're asking that question about you, but you're also asking that question about them. Just like you'd evaluate a possible partner you're dating. It's not just do they like you, but do you like them? Because a bad customer will sink you. We had a long conversation about this frequently in the workshop and other times when I'm talking to people, especially when we're talking over sales prospects. Whenever the question is, what do you think about sales? All the words I get back are negative. Slimy, sleazy, lying, dishonest. But you know what? When you're telling your story, communicating your brand, you're selling. You are one of them. And if you're not telling your story or telling it in a way that gets you to that evaluation phase, you'll never make it through the courtship. You can't sell your story that well, right? Then there's no money coming into you at the end of the day. Whether you're running your own business or you're independent, you have to make the money come in. This is your job. It all starts and ends with you. So, here's the next one. The way to answer this question when you're down here at the evaluation stage is to ask yourself, who do you serve? Right? Who do you want to serve? What kinds of projects do you like to work on? What environments do you thrive in? What kinds of values do you hold so you can look at whatever it is they're offering? Because they're not just offering money. And you're not just offering skills. But what are they offering that you can say is in alignment with your persona and drive? That's the kind of project you want to work on. You'll be so energized, you'll be working on it all the time. Right? So these questions, like the others, you should be able to fill an entire sheet of paper with the answer to each one. Right? What gets you motivated? What tasks do you not want to do? We all have them. There's many, many, many I don't like. We all have them. So many. Right? But again, try to stay on the positive side. Doing negative is easy. Positive is hard. Right? You got to do the exercise. You have to know who you serve because you can't get past that stage of alignment and move on and book the deal without it. The customer will never be attached with you if you're not aligned. Right? And at this stage, chemistry matters more than it did in the beginning. You're starting a long-term relationship. Those are hard work. They're not easy. It's not all fun and games after the ceremony, right? It's hard work. They've got to get along with you. You've got to get along with them. We've all had jobs we hated and teams that we loved, where everyone was clicking together and working effectively. You knew each other. Your stories were aligned. Your drives were the same. The story you're telling matches the story they're telling of themselves. It's not just skills and money. In the end, you shouldn't be negotiating over price. It means you haven't differentiated yourself in a way that shows your value. You haven't told your story well. You haven't given them a brand that has the value you attach to it. It's not just skills or money, it really is your story. I pitch every day. I pitch to existing customers who've been around for years. They have a question. When they come to me, I have to reinforce my value as well as answer the question in a way that makes them comfortable, confident, successful, and engenders their trust in me. It has to do with how I view myself. Anyone who wants to talk offline, I can tell you a story about how the 3 books I mentioned in the beginning came to be. But for the video, here's a good example, right? So I've given you us as an example all the way through, but here's really how it all comes together. This is our customer profile for single sourcing solutions, and it took us a long time to figure it out, and a lot of searching on our end, knowing who we are, how we talk to customers, what things we're passionate about, how we figure out if we're aligned. Right? It took us a while to really understand who our customer was, who our people are, and we recognize them instantly when we find them. We figured out our customers fit this profile. They want to do it themselves, but they don't want to be alone when they do it. So remember the story I told you, we sell Arbor Tech, so does everybody else. Why pick us? Well, we do topic-based authoring, training, implementation, style sheets. So do a lot of other people. Right? There are customers who prefer to have a big project. They want someone to do it all for them, tell them when it's done, and hand it back. They don't want to do the work. They want someone else to do it for them. While we can do that, we don't like to do it. So those are not our customers. More importantly, we know they are not our customers. For us, the customer profile is very clear. They want to do it themselves. They don't know how, but they want to. They want to learn to do as we do, not just be trained in something. For us, that means we partner and we mentor. This is the story we tell every day. They come to us. We don't have to chase them. Customers who want a mentor, a partner, a second opinion, who want to take ownership and learn how to support a project they're responsible for, like journeyman to apprentice. This is the story we tell. These are the customers who come up to us. We don't have to chase them. Some people want this, many do not. And when we run into someone who isn't one of our people, the ones who come to us with the throw it over the fence project, we gently direct them to a consultant or product that's better for them. We do it because it's right for them, not because of an affiliate style relationship. Our customers want the credit, we don't take the credit. We don't want to. They know this. They want to be the star in their organization, and they want to be able to fix things later on. I love this, right? Everybody's seen the Harry Potter movies. He gets a super powerful wand, he breaks it and throws it away. He could keep the wand. He could attract all those same people who just want to be close to power. He could keep it to force people to do what he wants. But that's not who he is, not who he wants around him, not how he wants his story to be told. It's not how he wants to attract people into his life. He throws it away. Right? Even if you find that you need to shift the sales to reach a different target market in a new way, it doesn't mean you lose your core foundation. Who you are or who your team is at the core remains steady and fixed. You have to know who you are in order to make that decision. It's how you find your customers. It's how your people find you. Your tribe, your customers, your people. We all find each other. So these are the 2 tactics I've given you. I've given you some questions, some slides. You can work through the slides, you can work through the questions, find out who you are so you can tell your story, the attraction part. Find out what your customer profile is so you can figure out how to do the evaluation, the alignment. These are the 2 keys. Know who you are, who you serve. They're the keys to your branding story, the key parts to telling your story, but they are only the first steps. Until you know how you're going to tell your story, you can't make a plan. I love this slide. It's Colbert talking to Eminem in 2015, at which point he's well into his career, and the question he's asking is, it's a hobby or a career, right? And you do have to make that choice. Is this a hobby, or are you all in? If you're going to be an entrepreneur and start a business, you've got to be all in. You have to know your runway, how far you can take it, how much risk you're willing to take or not. Same for going up the ladder. What don't you know? What are you going to figure out? What are you going to do on your own? Or what do you need to learn? Is it just a hobby? Do you want to play at leadership and lead a few sessions? Or are you going pro and taking it seriously? Think back to all those slides with the questions. If you can't fill out the sheet of paper and say, here's my quick and easy answer, then you're not taking it seriously. You're not really looking or trying to understand what your story is. If you ask the workshop attendees, they'll back me up on this. Every one of them had insights. Every one had a clear path they could see, actionable next steps that would take them to their goal. We really went deep to figure out what everyone's core offering was. So think about LinkedIn. There are lions who connect to me. They say, hey, connect to me. They don't really know you, but they'll say yes. That's positive on one side. They have a big following and can tell their followers a lot about other people in their network, but they can't vouch for anyone in their network. They can't really connect you to anyone. If you need something really specific, they can't point you out to who that is, right? Think back to my story about Andrew. He can vouch for every company where he's placing someone and every person he places. Something I do too. There's no one in my network I haven't spoken to at least briefly. The workshop was great that way. I absolutely know where now to go for specific skills and values, and I can always introduce people later on. Okay, let's take a break and answer some questions. Type them in if you haven't already. Okay, here's the first one. Sounds like an artistic mix of selling your skills and selling your vision. So I'd say yes, but marketing is persuasion. There are graphics involved. There's a story you're telling. It all comes together. However, you don't have to be an artist to do it. You have to be able to define and understand. And this is something we all do every day in our work when we do audience analysis, recruit user stories. It's not completely artistic, but that can help. I won't deny that. Okay, number 2. Is there a difference between filling an FTE position, that's full-time employee position in a company, versus a contract, and being a generalist versus a specialist? Well, so I will say that from the FTE perspective, whether you sell as a generalist or specialist depends highly on the situation and the job you're looking at. What you highlight depends on what they're looking for. What brochure are you putting together to explain why you're a match? Right? Contract usually tends to be more general than specialist, especially if you're going through like a recruiting house or a contract agency, because they're looking to do matchmaking. And the more buzzwords they have, the better matching they can, the better people they can offer to their customers. On the other hand, I am seeing people be more specialized than general overall. It is at this point now hard to get into API writing unless you've been doing, you have some background in or done some programming. And I'll say that's doubly true of medical device writing. Medical writers have ongoing education requirements, just like doctors, and many of them are ex-doctors or ex-technicians. So you need to take things like that into account. Generalists are less likely to get into things that are already becoming highly specialized. But if that's not what you're interested in, it doesn't matter to you. There's less money overall. I will say, too, that for companies for training, no one's hiring people to learn for 12 months before they're productive. The bigger the company, the more likely you can find those kinds of entry-level learning jobs. For smaller companies, it's non-existent. Budgets are tighter and there's less slack in the system. But it all pays into who do you want to work for? What kind of jobs do you want to have? Third one, related. I've heard the jack of all trades keeps you as secure in a job. Specialization gets you into a large course of industry discussion. Sure. If you like having flexibility and being able to pop around on different projects, you're probably not looking at a startup. That's the here's who I am, what do I like to do, how am I differentiated questions, right? Versus what customer is yours and what isn't. Always come back to that. Here's what I want, here's who I fit with, rather than here's how I'm employable, right? I think that generally helps. The approach is different. In terms of knowing yourself and others, what do you think about personality typing? In terms of what we're talking about today, I think it's a distraction. It's a shortcut for simplifying personal interactions. It won't give you more than a superficial start to how to approach an individual. Now, it can make it easy to dismiss others or pigeonhole them or yourself. It makes it way too easy to say, oh, I can never do that because I'm a this. But I will also say, because this is kind of one of the places where I fit, If you're not good at understanding people, it helps you to get a handle on how to deal with someone, then they're great, right? But remember, it's only a starting point. If you really want to understand someone else, you have to put yourself in their shoes and understand things from their perspective. Personality typing may be a starting point, but that's all it is. Don't ever let yourself feel limited by it. All right, one more question. Looks like, okay, here we go. Seems many recruiters recommend many specific resumes rather than a general one. I agree with that. I know it's more work, but when you're looking for employment or a customer, there's work involved. At a company, there are two whole departments that do this. It's called marketing and sales. If you really want a specific job, it's no different than a company going after a customer. I know it's hard, especially when there's no money coming in. Desperation isn't an aphrodisiac. But it's not just about what they want, but what you want. Do the research, go after them. I'm not a recruiter, so, I will say that we launched a whole group to do this. This is our latest project here at Single Sourcing. This is a new thing we're doing. When I started Single Sourcing Solutions back in 2005, I was lucky to be in the San Francisco Bay Area and had at my disposal a mastermind. It was a group of entrepreneurs. We met every month. We met at breakfast. The group says we do more before breakfast than others do all day, and it was absolutely true. As bootstrapping entrepreneurs, you have to spend your day working, finding customers, building a prototype, figuring out your business. You don't have all day to sit around and discuss issues. So now I come from technical communications and I come from CS. I don't have an MBA, but I was off to launch a business. I had a lot of learning to backfill to be successful. Sales tax, ugh, I can tell you all about that now, but back then I had no idea it was even a blip on the horizon or how complex it was. Every month we'd meet. I was the only woman and only non-engineer in the group. Silicon Valley, right? Most of the rest, mechanical engineering, building a product or business or want to be acquired. They want to go and get venture funding. I'd been through that. I know what that path looks like. I didn't want it, not for what I was launching. So we went down the path of self-funding. But I'd go to this meeting. We'd talk about all this stuff that we didn't know. Right? They're all engineers, but they don't know about running a business either. What's the right structure? Who do you do for accounting? Where do you go for this? What about SEO? How do you do that? Who can help with that? Right? It was growing a network in a totally different way. And we get together and pool our networks and keep each other accountable from month to month. And that is really tremendous help right there. Everyone would come in, report whether they'd met the goals they'd set out the last month and what they were doing during the next one. And this is what we did every month. And in the last 5 years, I'd have to say I have this kind of conversation every few months or so. You can see the testimonials on my LinkedIn for a couple of them. Um, you know, that's just how it works sometimes. So we're launching this. It's online. We meet once a month. It is not free. It's the first thing we've done that isn't, because you got to have some skin in the game. You're telling personal stories and sharing goals. You're sharing information with others. So everyone has to have some skin in the game. It's inexpensive, but it's a trust. Right? We're focused on technical communicators, technical writers, and there's no programmers trying to get into VCs. Right, so this is what it's for. If you want a coach, get a coach. Go to LinkedIn, get a reference from someone you trust. There's lots of them, right? Do the dance, go through the courtship phase. If you like them, good. If not, go find somebody else. Look for masterminds in your area. All at the Content Strategy Conference, which happened last year, someone did a presentation on masterminds. Edison, Carnegie, they were in them. If you look back. These groups bring a variety of perspectives together, different networks, different industries, and we can all learn from each other, and we only benefit by getting more feedback. So in the next dojo, we have Elliot Kimber coming to talk about keys and key references. He was a request by some folks on the survey, so if you think we don't read it, we absolutely do. And if we do, I think we don't take suggestions or nominations for presenters. We absolutely do, and this is one of them. So I think this is going to be the first time. He probably will come back and do a second one. I've never known Elliot to keep it to 30 minutes, but we're going to do our best and at least get this started. Talk about keys and data. All right, thanks for coming to the Single Sourcing Solutions TC Dojo. I don't see any more questions, right? But the dojo is all about you. What do you want to learn? Subscribe to our TC Dojo mailing list so you get the link to this session once the video is posted, as well as announcements for future sessions and the link to the survey so you can vote on what you want to learn. Every month we look at that list. We go out and find experts like Elliot willing to share their experience. Why should we tell you what to learn? You should tell us. All right. As always, if you need more personal help, just reach out using your communication method of choice, and we'll see you next time.